about our next guest. So he was a former Special Forces soldier who went on to become one of the youngest ever climbers of Mount Everest, despite breaking his back just a month earlier in an accident. From Everest, he went on to host more extreme adventure TV shows across more global networks than anyone else. These include the legendary Discovery Channel show Man vs. Wild and the hit show on NBC Running Wild, now in its 5th season. His Running Wild guests have included President Barack Obama, Roger Federer and Julia Roberts. And of course many other stars. He hosts the same show in China as well. He's also a family man, a #1 best-selling author, and the youngest ever chief scout and inspiration to 50 million scouts worldwide. A busy man. So, please welcome on stage. Please welcome on stage.
That's such a kind introduction, a typical Juice Plus introduction. It's always nice though to have the best side of us put forward. But perhaps a more real version of an introduction might go something more like this. Bear Grylls will be with us momentarily. It seems that he's currently gone walkabout again. My mum always used to go mad at that one. Bear was last spotted backstage, scribbling notes for this talk frantically on the back of his hand. He has visited the bathroom now 11 times. Bear watches far too many YouTube clips of epic ski fails, actually pretty good. And he sometimes catches glimpses of himself on TV and wonders how on earth all of this came about. He also wonders if people know quite how much he struggles with the fame side of things, and that he much prefers just hanging out with good friends, being treated like a normal guy, than going to any sort of fancy party. Bear Grylls also drinks 30 cups of very milky tea every day and remains convinced that this is entirely normal. All very true. But my point is this, that the man standing in front of you now, outside of the TV, away from the adventures, is really very ordinary and often full of fears and doubts, despite what you might think. And that's really where I want to start. The battles, the failures. Because life is hard sometimes. And we all face the battles. We all have our struggles. We all have our fears. It's a universal truth that whoever we are, life will test us. Physically, emotionally, mentally. But how we react to that testing determines everything. I'll never forget day one of Special Forces selection to try and join 21 SAS. stood in the rain at the foot of a windswept mountain in the Brecon Beacons. Soaked, shivering, and with no clue what lay ahead for the next 11 months. We were a band of 90 recruits, or volunteers as we were called, and if I'm honest, I'd never felt so out of place amongst these huge, muscle-bound soldiers. And I had that dreadful feeling that I'd volunteered for something way beyond my capabilities. At the end though, all those months later, just 4 of us remained. By then, those 3 men beside me were like brothers. To look at, all pretty ordinary, regular in stature, but mighty in spirit. Still best friends to this day. Because Special Forces selection reduces people, it's impossible to stay strong for that long. It forces you to become acquainted with the side of you that has nothing left to give, at your utter limits. And it's simply looking for how you deal with the testing. How are you going to respond? Because the irony is that life doesn't always reward the brilliant or the talented. It really doesn't care about those things. The exam results, the good looks, the letters after a name. No. Life rewards the dogged, the determined, those who can keep getting back on their feet time after time. I have failed so many times. Honestly, you've no idea, more times than you might imagine. We have 3 sons, and recently I actually wrote out a list for them of all the failures. Because maybe they'd started to believe that any success they saw around them had somehow just landed at their door, perfectly packaged. But the truth is that the failures far outweigh the successes many times over. The failed expeditions, the failed projects, the near-death moments, the ones that still come to me in the night sometimes. But those failures have forged me and built resilience quietly over time. And it doesn't mean that life now is somehow easier. Success brings many other struggles. Life can be just as hard as any jungle to navigate. We all know that. But I look back and I see the power of the failures. Essential building blocks, stepping stones to the good stuff. Doors that we have to walk through if we're going to succeed. And life has shown me that there's only ever really one failure. And that's giving up. But failure always has a cost. And it can so easily erode our belief and knock our confidence. Confidence. It's a big one. A daily battle for all of us. We all face it. I actually really struggled with rooms full of strangers. I know the irony isn't lost on me. But I think it's because I know that I'm not as strong as people might expect or might hope. But that's okay. We all have our stuff. I've learned though to keep doing the uncomfortable. That it's in the struggles we all develop our strength. That we only grow when we're outside of that comfort zone. Or that comfort pit, as I call it. Because we want to get out of it as quickly as possible. And so often the things that we fear aren't always so bad. As long as we don't run from them. When we run, they get bigger. The wild has taught me that one. You know, you gotta face the wolves. You gotta swim strong when you're surrounded by sharks. Because when we run, everything gets worse. Unless it's the saltwater crocodile, in which case that one, don't run towards that one. That one you can get away from. But in life, when we turn and we face our fears and we edge towards them, then our fears subside. I've seen it so often. And that's why I always say that the best way over our fears is always right through the middle, right towards them. I've learned this one too, that the cracks are okay, the chinks. It's our flaws that actually make us real, however much we all want to hide them. You know what they say, that light can only shine through cracked vessels, yeah? But it's our cracks that connect us and make us human, and also relatable, I hope. Because the struggles are really the story. That is the irony. Like our wrinkles. You know, I say this to our boys when they come up to me and they feel my crow's feet on the side of my eyes. You know, they're nothing to hide. Each one is a story, an adventure. Oh yeah, okay, this one. Yeah, that was trying to cross the Arctic Ocean, trapped in a force 9 gale, 500 miles offshore. 5 of us in a small, open, inflatable boat. It's 3 a.m. and we've got waves and white water crashing on us like houses. And we know it's not looking good. Or as one of our crew later said, I've never been so certain that I was about to die. But we held on, just. Good friends, a little bit of luck, but we never gave up. And we made it. You see, nobody is very brilliant, or brave, or extraordinary all the time. But it's about delivering that little bit extra when it matters. Because it's that makes people or situations or relationships extraordinary. It's always been the unwritten motto of the British SAS. Always a little bit further. That little word that turns ordinary into extraordinary. Battles and races, won and lost, always in the extra 5%. But finding that little bit extra can be hard sometimes. If it was easy, then everyone would reach their summits. But most don't. And mainly they don't because it means become acquainted with the fire. Wow, the fire. The greatest gift that each of us have. The fire inside. Spirit, tenacity, guts, call it what you will. We all have it. And it's often been there for me in the really grim times. And sometimes life tries to stamp that fire out, but it's always there. And sometimes an ember is all it takes. And sometimes that fire doesn't really emerge until life gets really tough. But for me, it's been my most valuable weapon. The weapon that I've used the most. Not talent, not knowledge, but resilience. Because when we do the difficult stuff, this is what happens. Our effort muscle inside becomes strong. But you've got to work it. That effort muscle, you've got to use it. It's got to get trained if we want it to get strong. Otherwise, if we don't use that effort muscle, it gets flabby. It's the storms that make us strong. And that's why I say to our young boys that I say it's not all about being in the top football team. Because sometimes those in the top teams have never had to try. There's no real failure or effort. It's all just effortless. But effortless is so dangerous. Because then in life, when the effortless kid grows up and life hits them hard and asks the question, they don't have any resilience. You know, their biceps might be strong, but their effort muscle is weak. But little Johnny over here, who's always overlooked in every team, and no one ever noticed it because he was a little bit useless. But Johnny never gave up. He just kept trying his best. Do your best. Dib, 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 scouting motto, do your best. When Johnny hits life, his effort muscle is crazy strong. He's ready for life, ready for success. Who's seen that? You see, life is all about the effort muscle. So in the tough moments, you know what it feels like. So that you and effort are friends, not strangers. When I was on Mount Everest, the mountain claimed 4 climbers' lives up there. 2 died of the cold, and 2 fell. It's just what high mountains do. They kick the hell out of you, continually. They ask that question, what are you made of? And I'll never forget the final hours on that mountain. We were at 28,000 feet, and we've been climbing now for over 55 days. It's minus 40 degrees, and the dark ice face of the final 2,000 foot of Everest looms above. And I'm terrified. The next 24 hours is going to change my life. I know that. But after so long at high altitude, I'm weak. Really weak. And I'm mentally exhausted. And I'm in this chest-deep snow, in a steep couloir, and it's never ending. I keep sliding back with every step. And I'm no longer sure I can make it. Really, I'm not. And this persistent voice inside keeps telling me this. Reminding me that only a year earlier I'd been in a hospital, having broken my back in 3 places in that free-fall parachuting accident. Less than 1 millimeter from being paralyzed. And I'd been told that there was no guarantee I'd be able to walk properly again, let alone run or climb. Those voices. And 2 years later, here I am on the southeast face of Everest, but struggling, out of my depth, wading through deep snow, in the dark, in a face so steep that without both ice axes above me, I can't move. And the voice is still there. Ever since that hospital bed, you won't make it. Not with the injuries. And I'm slowly bowing to the voice. But I keep going. Just NGU. Never give up. And then I begin to sense this other voice beside me, a better voice, willing me on. I'm with you. I'll be your strength. Keep going. Forward. Moving. Trying. Falling. Get back up. The summit will come. Because we all face our times of testing. Our Everest. Every day. Whether it's an actual mountain or simply holding down a job or raising a family or trying somehow not to lose sight of our dreams and our aspirations. Because Everest really is just a state of mind. I finally reached the summit of my Everest, and it was extraordinary. You know, you see the curvature of the earth at the edges, and you're aware you're truly somewhere special. The wind finally dropped, and I just collapsed to my knees. And on that mountain, I experienced the voice of doubt being silenced, drowned out by goodness. By a presence that's impossible to describe, like describing ice cream. Some call it faith, but it's a flame that is beautiful, and we all have it, and it's never let me down. And I don't think it's to do with church, because I don't go enough, but this presence is quiet, and it's personal. It's born in brokenness, yet it's rooted in power and connection and freedom. It's the sort of thing that I remember Jesus always spoke about to the outcasts, which is probably why the religious elite never liked him very much. He was making faith available to the wild ones, to the rebels, those who were up against it, like me. And I always loved that in the stories of Christ. But if he is that presence, then I'm in. So I suppose what I'm trying to say through all of this is simple. First, that I'm no hero. Truly. I struggle often, and I'm no stranger to crippling fear. But I know the weapons that serve me best. Resilience and faith. That ability to dig deep when all around me are throwing in the towel. A dogged determination to see the worthwhile things through. My father was alive when I reached the summit of Everest, but he died soon after. But not before I got the chance to say to him, the man that had taught me to climb as a young, shy boy, that he'd climbed that mountain with me, every faltering step of the way together. And one of the only things I took from the summit was a little scoop of snow in a bottle that became meltwater and water. And my dad used to take sips of it every now and again, like our magic potion for strength. But here's the thing. It was never about the water. It was about believing that dreams are worth fighting for. And it's about understanding that when we all face the giants in life, know the power of resilience, the power of never giving up. And that's really what my late father taught me. Life has also taught me this. Live in the moment. I don't enough. I'm so often looking for something else, you know. I get blind to the truth that the best things I know are around me. My family, great friends, the few skills that feel natural to me when I climb or paraglide down a mountain face. Because the only moments we really have are the now. The rest is a big mystery. And then there's learning not to worry so much. Because worry just robs us of joy. Let the worries go. They cripple people. There is a better way of that uncertainty. The Special Forces taught me to look at only what I can change, or better, or influence. If it's beyond that, then don't sweat it. Let it go. Okay, last few things. Remember the power of gratitude. Always be grateful. I tell my boys this one a lot. Kiss your mum. We're all so blessed, you know. I've climbed mountains with men who've lost their legs and limbs in war. And yet they never stopped smiling. Look at all we have. Rich beyond measure. I can count a solid 21 times that I should have died during the episodes of Man vs. Wild. It's not a ratio that I'm proud of, but in the early days we didn't know any better, you know. Bitten by snakes, falling down deep crevasses, pinned in white water, avalanches, rock falls. That time in the Costa Rican jungle when I thought it was a good idea to use a vine to rappel down a 100-foot waterfall. That vine wasn't as strong as I'd anticipated. But it all taught me the simple lesson. Don't be an idiot. And never forget how lucky you are to be alive. And also to be kind. Wow, you know, that's a big one in our lives. How much does our world desperately need more kindness? It's probably the most powerful thing that I get to see in my role as a Chief Scout. The way kindness changes people. We now have 50 million young scouts worldwide, this force for good, all having taken a promise to be kind and helpful. And when I see young scouts holding the hands of dementia sufferers in senior citizens' homes, it's a poignant reminder of how kindness can better our world. The value of small acts, pure gold. You know that on a mountain there are only ever two currencies? Do you know these? Number one, blue paper. And number two, kindness. And after 3 months on an expedition, you really learn to value the kind human being. And the one that gives you their blue paper. Also, watch out for the dream stealers. You guys know it. The naysayers, those who try to belittle your dreams. Don't listen to them. Not always easy, but we've got to try. Because those dreams, they're really precious, God-given. Don't let people tread on yours. And when those failures come, what do? We get back up, because that is the journey of life, getting back up. Because sometimes we don't even know which way is up until we get hit down. True. And remember above all, humility. Try and be humble, because it's how we connect. And finally, always be thankful for good friends. I am every day. I love mine and I drop everything for them and then for me. You know, Simon, Shay, our friends from 4 years. And right there is my real wealth. And I just want to say, I hope that somewhere in all of this are some little nuggets for you guys. Because it's about the simple things that keep us moving through the dark nights. And the things that keep us smiling in the bright days. So remember, you are made amazing. Stand tall and NGU. Never give up.
Plus during your Everest ascent. So what we want to know is, do you still take the products? Do you still use it?
Of course, every day. I've used... and I'm not, I don't just say that lightly. I'm really genuine. I've taken Juice Plus for, a good 20 years now. So grateful for always the Juice Plus support from the company. Love that. Love the friendships, as I said, but really, really grateful. One of the few things that I took to the summit with me, our boys, like I said, they always go, oh, not more Juice Plus stuff. I go, sound of good health coming your way, come on, here we go. So I'm always grateful for that. For me, I feel like I'm speaking to family, but genuinely grateful to be here and wish you guys so much success in all of your endeavours. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all the people that came on stage with us for the Beyond team. We'd like to take a photo with you. Okay, so please welcome on stage our Beyond Ambassador and Beyond Franchise Partner.